Yeah, I'll call the meeting over. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone to the July meeting of the Newcastle School Board. First item on the agenda is adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Gibbons.
Yep, I don't have any adjustments for the agenda this month.
Okay. Next item is on the agenda is public comments regarding agenda items. Do we have any comments regarding agenda items? Yes.
I have a question regarding Mr. Gibney's email about the COVID-19 requirements. I'm not sure if that counts as an agenda item or not.
You know what, that is not really anything on the agenda. However, if you do have a comment about that, we can address that at the end of the meeting while I will comment.
Okay, thank you.
Following our next item on the board, on the agenda is organization of the board, election of board officers. First being the president of the board.
I find it easier to nominate people than you don't get nominated yourself. I think I would like to nominate Mike White for president and Russell Harvey for vice president.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Also,
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, folks. Next item is the secretary of the board.
I make a motion to nominate Brian Thompson.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next is the school board appointment as the legislative liaison to the ISBA.
That seems like a real good job for the president. I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Motion passes. Next is to appoint the corporation treasurer, Kelly Romer, finance director.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is to appoint deputy treasurer, Shelley Gardner.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is to appoint the high school ECA treasurer, Tina Williamson.
I will make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is to appoint the corporation attorney, Susan Trainer Chastain, with Lewis and Kappas, PC.
I'll make a motion. I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Final item here is to establish the date, time, and place of regular board meetings. Is there anyone have any reason to?
Yeah, so it's still the fourth Monday, with the two exceptions, obviously, with us being on the break. That's where it would be adjusted to the fifth Monday. But as long as no one has any objections, I think that would be the recommendation to stick with that calendar.
Okay, so can I get a motion to establish the fourth Monday at 7 o'clock in this room, the Central Office Board room as the place of regular meetings?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. One item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from June 14, 2021, the regular board meeting minutes. And the allowance of blanks. This is all.
And in your board packet, you're going to see 2 payrolls for June. One's dated June 4th, 2021, for a total payroll of $442,491.37. Along with that payroll came the accounts payable for payroll taxes and retirement, for a total accounts payable for the June 4th payroll, $123,092.03. The second regular payroll for June was dated June 18th, for a total payroll of $643,429.90. And you'll notice that's a little higher than normal. That's with retirement payouts, that type of thing. So, okay. Along with that payroll came the accounts payable for retirement and taxes. Total accounts payable $207,387.77. And next in your finance packet, you're going to see the prepays for June 2021. Total for prepays for June, $367,066.87. Was there anything in particular anyone had a question about this month?
No, not really.
Okay, all right. There's no questions. We'll just go ahead and move on to regular claims, and that will be dated today, July 26, 2021. As with every July, there's several renewals. We have insurance renewals, we have licensing renewals, we have software renewals, there's lots of renewals. If there's anything in particular that jumped out at you that you are questioning, I'd be happy to answer any questions on that. Okay, if there are none, the total accounts payable our claims for data today, July 26, 2021, $542,679.61. I'd like to point out that this month, there was a lot that was being paid out of the ESSER grants. That's why those claims are a little higher this month, but almost all those higher end items, and I'm happy to answer anything even after the board meeting, all grant related.
Swank movie license.
You have a question about that?
I'm afraid to ask.
No, I can tell you it's actually so they can view any type of media on the internet, or if they happen to have like DVDs or something that they want to play in their classroom, we have to have a license to be able to do that in the classroom.
It's exciting to see things about that. Straight in the head, so it's exciting.
Are we ready to move on to the finance report?
Sure.
Okay. Next in your packet, you'll see the fund report. Just to discuss a little bit on balances here. In your education fund, you're going to see a balance for June 2021, $1,028,814.70. And then in operations, you'll see that the balance is a little bit higher, and that's because we had our payout in June for property taxes, and as you know, that helps support our operations for the rest of the year. So it's going to be a little bit higher, $2,094,094.47. And if you'd like to go ahead and go to the last page of your fund report, page 6, total current balance for all funds, the end of June 2021, $8,205,044.02. If you'll take a look at your depository statement of bank balances, you'll see all the bank balances there, along with outstanding checks for each bank. And then the balance of all banks minus the outstanding checks, you'll see at the bottom, the June fund balance should be $8,205,044.02 for all banks, and you'll see that that matches the fund report to the penny.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The final thing in the consent agenda is personnel reports part 1 and 2, which are on the website, and I believe hanging on the door.
That's correct. And just to add to that, as is customary, we're continuing to fill any last minute remaining vacancies before the start of the school year. So any of those staff members that are in place but weren't on tonight's personnel report will be on August 4th personnel report.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is reports, and first up is Assistant Superintendent report. Dr. Brown.
So we just ended our first week of Jumpstart, our K through 8 program. And so we have on average 125 elementary kids every day and 30 middle school kids every day. One more week to go with that. So I'm excited to debrief with the teachers and principals afterwards to kind of compare the effectiveness of how where the Jumpstart program is versus the end of the year summer school, and then looking forward to tracking that data to see how that impacts kids. And then after school program. So I keep talking about it. So the day is finally here. We did a great job marketing and advertising. We had 354 students register for K-8. We have a capacity of about 200. So 100 elementary and 100 middle school. So we're able to kind of set some criteria and go back through. So we're also not going to be able to provide transportation for the elementary families because we have no transportation bus drivers to be able to dedicate to that. So that's going to alleviate that with that. So that's one criteria. The other criteria is students that are going to come full-time, 5 days a week versus 1 day a week. And then look at their time stamp on registration. And so families will be, we're going through all those lists today, and families will be notified by Wednesday, whether they're on the wait list. And as we expand staff, we can continue to add kids. And then if for any family that we're counting on that program for childcare, we're still going to be able to have a YMCA housed at TUV. So, and we can provide some financial assistance for families that need to count on that for childcare. So it's coming together.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. Next up is Superintendent report.
Yeah, so just to add on a couple things, obviously, all of our staff has been working extremely hard to get our buildings, grounds, our staff in place and making sure that our teachers and buildings are ready to go. So appreciate our administrators and maintenance crew, custodians, everyone. It's really a team effort to make sure we're ready for the start of school. As obviously we get ready for crunch time and the return of our kids on August 4th, it always feels like we're not quite there, but we always, the staff and the team really does a great job of pulling together and making sure we're ready to go. So really excited about that and wanted to thank everyone for that. Just a couple of updates. We're continuing to make progress and meet with our focus groups and design teams for the different projects that will be taking place as a part of the larger building project. So we're still working through schematic design. Just been really impressed by the feedback and suggestions given from our team members and the work with KRM as our architects. So that work will continue to kind of take place. We're almost reaching a point to where we'll be finished with schematic design, and then there'll kind of be a bit of a pause while the architects develop construction documents and blueprints and prepare bid packages for October and November before ultimately, hopefully, awarding bids right around the end of November, beginning of December, and then ultimately beginning work. So no other work is commenced outside of the turf and track project, and that's underway, and that's scheduled to, the turf is scheduled to be completed on September 1st, with the track service scheduled for completion on October 1st. So talking to our professionals there, that project still is on time, so that's exciting to hear. But we will obviously continue to move forward with the work in those projects before work picking up on focus groups for work in our middle schools, or excuse me, our middle school, our primary school. They'll begin taking a deeper dive here, I believe it's actually tomorrow morning, looking at TZ to see if we can't get a better handle on some of our moisture or water issues. So that project will kind of go, it's going to start a little bit sooner than originally anticipated, because we know not all construction projects will be started at the same time. So we're still working on what that sequencing or phasing will be, even with the work that's taking place at the high school itself. We don't know the order of events. We know that the science labs are a part of it, but we're not necessarily to a point where we know when the science labs will be completed. Because obviously we have to make, if it's during the school year, we have to make arrangements with our staff members. So looking forward to seeing some of those things come together here soon, in the next couple of months, so we can move forward. But overall, very excited. We had a very good bond sale. Interest rate was really good, so I'll have to follow the report for the board next month on that. We're waiting on our amortization schedules, but overall, that was good and was a good market for our bonds. Second item I have is I've been providing the board your quarterly cash flow reports for Education Fund and Operations Fund. And so there's just a couple of items that I just want to make note of. And one of the things that we've been talking about for, I guess I could say, over a year now, is really honing in and balancing our budget to where we're not spending more cash than we're receiving. And so we've had to make some, difficult adjustments throughout the school district for both education funded positions and also positions funded from the operations fund. And ultimately, if you can remember, for the education fund, our revenue is pretty much determined based on our ADN count, or that's our student count. And so we've been averaging a net decrease of just over 42 students the last 5 years. And we had not been adjusting our expenditures when we've been seeing decreased revenue. So we spent a lot of the last year kind of right-sizing the ship with that, making difficult decisions to not fill positions when people had left, and in some instances reorganizing some of those duties. And that's something that we have to continue to do moving forward if our student enrollment decreases. But overall, I just wanted to kind of note or point out on the final page, there's a 3.5-year history for expenditures and revenue, monthly, year to date. And so when I'm looking at the far right-hand side of the page, our year-to-date expenditures out of our education fund through the end of June, we're right at $5.9 million. Whereas if you look in 2020, we're at 6.4. In 2019, we're at 6.2. So you can end in 2018, it was 5.8. So it increased steadily each of the last 3 years. But then it decreased. And so those adjustments and those changes that we've made has helped obviously decrease our spending. And some of those adjustments we haven't even, for instance, positions that we haven't filled moving into this next school year, we haven't necessarily realized those savings. So that will continue to kind of help us moving forwards. Because on the front page of your cash flow report, you can see I have a column here that says cash balance difference. And so that's the cash balance at the end of June compared to the cash balance that we started the year with in January. And the cash balance difference is a net positive of just over $186,000. But the important thing to note with this is because we couldn't afford all of our expenditures, we couldn't afford all of our expenditures in our education fund, we shifted some staffing positions to our rainy day, right around just under $400,000 annually. So we don't necessarily have a net growth of 186. So when you're comparing that, I looked at the expenditures from rainy day just for staffing, and we have $186,643.83 out of the rainy day. So really, we're to the good, $344.71. So that is a good spot to be in because we're in the black there. But we also know that we made some adjustments along the way, and we've yet to see or realize those savings. So I'm predicting that we're going to end the year in the black for the second year in a row, and that's a good thing. But we obviously have to continue to make good decisions in order to make sure we're on track. So just another kind of quarterly update with that. So the other thing that obviously can really help with that is obviously student enrollment coming back, right? We know that the legislature has increased funding levels, but we can also benefit if our student enrollment doesn't decrease for this school year from where it was last year, or hopefully maybe we can come back and see it grow a little bit stronger. All of those things will help our cash flow and help us with long-term movement. But overall, making progress, not quite where we need to be, but it's definitely a lot better than where we were a year ago today. So I'm going to share that with you, and then I won't talk in depth with Operations Fund, seminar, just comparing year-to-date expenditures, 2020 versus 2021. Through June, we're about $165,000 less. So again, we've made some adjustments there as well, and we actually also had a better than anticipated tax settlement in June. So I know originally with COVID we were worried about those tax settlements, but they've continued to come back better than expected or strong, and hopefully that'll be the same case come December with that. So a couple of financial updates. And then, just with our return to school plan, so that's return to in-person instruction plan. Obviously, that's been posted and shared with families. And just much like how we did last school year, we're always working kind of meet that moving target. And so if and as conditions change, through the pandemic, obviously we're going to have to be flexible, and we might have to look at making more restrictions, or hopefully things continue to go well and we can loosen or reduce some of the restrictions. But we're going mask optional for next school year, with the exception being our school buses. It's a federal transportation mandate, so we do have to wear masks on school buses. We are working very closely with the health department. We also have to, conduct contact tracing and family, students or staff members may enter in quarantine. But working closely with them because the guidance and number of days have been adjusted. We're following their guidelines for that, and we work closely. We're still, COVID also brought some good things with just our extra good cleaning protocols and procedures, and just some subtle changes that have been made to our campuses. So we're going to continue with just great cleaning practices, which can help with COVID and everything else as well. But that's pretty much all I kind of have for this month, unless the board has any questions.
I'm assuming we probably have a lot of last minute people sign up for school. I was just wondering how you felt like registration was going, especially at the kindergarten levels.
Yeah, so I talked to Mike and them, all right.
165 kids.
Yeah, so kindergarten enrollment has been very, very good. And I think Jenny had said that enrollment just in general, RIT path was better than last year, so that's a positive.
I have at least 35 students above,
So we don't necessarily know quite where we'll be, but that's definitely a positive, and if we can grow our enrollment or at least stay the same, that's helpful, and hopefully more students will come back to us. Definitely have noticed a lot of cash transfer requests or non-resident transfer forms the past couple of weeks of students from other districts.
More so than the previous year.
It's been hard to gauge because I haven't necessarily been through it, but I feel like there have been more. Have you been seeing any of the visitors is about the same or more or less? Okay. So at least it's the same, so that's good. We don't want less.
Lots of new enrollments.
Yeah.
Lots of new enrollments.
yeah, so that's a definite positive.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about the superintendent report? Okay, very good. Next item on the agenda is old business, and there is no old business, so we move on to new business. And first item is an approval request for additional appropriation resolution.
Yeah, so this is just a standard resolution that we have to pass with the selling of our bonds and the building project. And so it's my recommendation that the board approve this resolution.
Make a motion.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is approval request for a 2022 proposed budget calendar.
Yep, so it's my favorite time of the year, budget season. So we're actually close to kind of having the budget ready to go. But in your packet is our budget calendar, and as you recall, since we have an appointed board, we have to follow some extra steps with the county council. And so we have a calendar that in your packet that helps us meet all those state statutes and guidelines in order for us to move forward with an adopted budget. It's pretty much a corresponding dates type calendar.
That's what's the, on the council actually that dictates.
Yes. Yep, so we have to finish some of our things sooner in order to give it to the county council before ultimately some things come before this board as well. And advertising and all of that.
Right.
I make a motion to accept the proposed budget calendar for 2022.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the proposed budget calendar. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is an approval request for the IDOE School Corporation Amendment.
Yeah, so this one is just more or less kind of a cleanup with regards to high school. We refer to ourselves as Greencastle High School, but however, according to the DOE, we're still listed as Greencastle Senior High School. And so I'm just seeking approval to move forward to make that amendment to where we can call ourselves Greencastle High School. And that requires board approval, and I have to actually take care of that action here before the end of the month. It doesn't change anything, it just adjusts the name.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is an approval request excuse me, for food services hiring pay increase.
Yep, so Mrs. Carrigo has recommended that we adjust the starting pay for cafeteria assistant from $10.50 to $11 an hour. These positions are all funded out of the food service account, and she's been doing very well with food service fund balance, and she can afford this increase.
Makes sense?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
If we're gonna have food, we're gonna have cake.
Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is an approval request for some donations. The first being Hassler Trucking Company to Greencastle High School athletics in the amount of $1,500. And Putnam County Community Foundation to Rid Path Primary, a therapy dog.
Yeah, so we always appreciate everybody that donates to our school. But the Community Foundation is covering the cost for the training and the purchase of the therapy dog, which Mrs. Ward, Megan Ward, the counselor, has been tasked with and has so graciously volunteered to handle and to let the dog stay with her and work on fundraising some of the other items or maintenance items. But we just think that that's just adds a lot of great value for that school environment, especially for some kids that might be having some struggles and just need that extra boost. Staff members too. So it's my recommendation that the board accept these donations.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Sure. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Maybe whenever the therapy dog gets to us, maybe they can show up at the board meeting.
I was gonna say, you can bring it to court.
You tell me the meetings are depressing.
I'm just saying, I know.
No, and then there's even the potential of greater partnerships and, taking the dog out in the community, but visit others. It's cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Definitely appreciate with everyone's assistance with that.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, last item on the agenda is other business. And does anyone have any other business?
Do you feel we're in pretty good shape as far as staffing at Scarlet School? May not be perfect,
No, our administrators and supervisors and directors have been working really hard to fill some last minute vacancies. But there definitely is a shortage. We're pretty much looking for every classification of employees, from cafeteria workers, custodians, bus drivers, IAs, instructional assistants, and teachers. So we are working to fill a few of those, and I know that we have one that we might have to look at a long-term substitute for, because there just aren't any candidates out there. And administrators are exploring all avenues, calling universities, going the non-traditional route of looking for maybe a teacher that might be a good fit, but not necessarily licensed in that area. So we're continuing to kind of work on that and kind of work through those things. And I definitely don't think that this is a new problem. I think the shortage is real. We've been talking about it for years. The legislature doesn't seem to necessarily believe that, but it's a real shortage.
Anyone else? Okay, well, in a departure from a regular board meeting, we have a gentleman wanting to make a comment on the re-entry plan or school startup plan again. We know that's a relatively sensitive subject, so we'll allow the comment. Keep in mind, we're not going to get into a question and answer and much dialogue, so you are welcome to make your comment. And keep in mind, we'll hear it and it will be considered whenever justice to the plan will be.
Okay, so there's no question and answer?
Correct.
Okay, well, that's very unfortunate. Unfortunately, haven't gotten any answers from any questions I've asked, so that's a little bit frustrating. But I would like to share, you all know, because I've emailed all of you, CDC recommends masks be worn indoors. This is from the cdc.gov/coronavirus back to school K-12 guidance, by the way. This is research by the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. This is from expert scientists in their field who've been studying diseases and how to prevent them for decades. And this is the solo, nonpartisan job of the Centers for Disease Control. And their recommendations include masks that should be worn by all individuals who are not fully vaccinated in the schools. And it says, correct use of masks by people who are not fully vaccinated is especially important indoors and in crowded settings. And then additionally, I know I provided all of you with the information that Lori Ramsey, Chief Nurse Consultant, Indiana Department of Health, on June 4th, 2021, she put a report on the Indiana Department of Health website, and that report suggests all students who are not vaccinated, which would include all students under 12 years of age, wear masks indoors at all times, with the exclusion of eating. Additionally, I have been told that some research was done locally here and our numbers were much better. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to ask questions, but I did find on the Indiana COVID dashboard, the current number of positive cases, active cases in the county is higher than it was last year at the same time. So that information I was provided is non-factual. I want to make sure that was known and quantified. It's literally on the Indiana COVID dashboard. I'm happy to show that to anybody if anybody's willing to take the time to listen or look. And also, additionally, if you look at the Indiana COVID dashboard, you'll find that we're now to the point this month that 80% of the cases in the state have been found to be the Delta variant of COVID-19, which is more transmissible than the other variants that we've dealt with in the past, and it's more easily spread. So I'd just like to go on the record personally as making sure everyone's aware that opening schools with zero mask requirement whatsoever is extremely dangerous for the entire community. While 0 to 12-year-olds may not be at a large risk for death, they all have family members. Many, as we just heard earlier, we had 350 people approximately asking for child care. We're only going to be able to offer 200. So the rest, elderly grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever, we only have 33% approximate vaccination rate around here. I don't have a current number as of today, but it certainly hasn't jumped over 50%. So I just want to go on the record as saying I think this is risking lives. I think it's going to cause a lot of people's sickness, and I think it's very preventable with a simple act of wearing a mask, which we did last year in exactly the same circumstances. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And your name?
Derek Jorgensen.
Derek Jorgensen. Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passed. We are adjourned. Thank you. Be careful.